Hi, good afternoon, Dr. Rizal and all my friends. Today I'm going to present the questions of week 3 question 2. So I wish everyone to reflect on the question first before and just looking on what I want to present now. So basically in this question is talking about the burden of proof and quantum of proof, which is also means that known as beban dan tahap pembuktian. So I'm going to explain the burden of proof first. So what is burden of proof? Burden of proof means that who must prove the case. And what is the quantum of proof means that to what extent, to what degree the party has the burden to prove on it. So what is burden of proof? According to Section 101 Evidence Act, it known as a legal burden. So we can look on civil cases, there is plaintiff, and criminal cases, we have public prosecutors. Both these parties has the same role, which is to establishing the case. So the legal burden is on plaintiff and public prosecutor to establish the case. So there is a maxim here, which is he who asserts must prove. Means that if someone wants to assert a fact, want to assert a story, so he must prove it to the court before the judge, so then the judge can agree on what he was saying was the truth. So it is also known as a fact in issue. The party must prove the fact in issue before the case going on. So moving on to the another section, which is Section 102 Evidence Act. It also known as the evidential burden. So what is evidential burden now? Evidential burden means that a party must have raised the sufficient evidence to rebut the element that has been proved by the another party. So this burden is shifting one another. So we can have an example like if plaintiff have proof of fact, if have proof of element, then the other party, which is the defendant, has the evidential burden to rebut the element that has been proved by the plaintiff. And once the defendant has successfully rebutted, and the plaintiff now have the evidential burden. So the evidential burden have shifted to the plaintiff now. So the plaintiff have to rebut the point that has been proved by the defendant just now. And this burden is shifting one another. So this is what I explained on evidential burden. So after explaining on Section 101 and 102, I'm going to the burden of proof prescribed by law, which is stated in 105 and 106 Evidence Act. Under 105, it means that if the accused comes within exception, no matter it's general or special exception, which is stated under Penal Code or the Written Act, the accused has the legal burden to prove it. So, for example, general exception, that is intoxication, insanity, provocation, then the accused has the legal burden to prove it as his defense. And for the Section 106, which is also the legal burden, is that the legal burden on the party who has to prove the facts that is especially within his knowledge. We can look onto the illustration B, Section 106. It stated that the party in that illustration state that he doesn't have the railway ticket when he was on the railway, but he wants to state that he actually have the railway ticket. So how do we know? It is depends on the person to prove it, why he had the ticket and how he had the ticket and why the ticket has been disappeared. So this is basically that if that the party doesn't have prove it, no one knows about it, because it is all depends especially within his own knowledge without others knowing it. So this is basically about the burden of proof, and I'm going to discuss on the quantum of proof now. So I separate it as a two parts, which is one is criminal and one is civil. So according to the Stephen's definition, it stated that in criminal, a prudent man aware danger of punish an innocent man. Therefore, higher standard of proof is required. It also brings out the principle of beyond reasonable doubt. And for the civil, it stated that danger does not exist. So the prudent man is willing to, in favor of a party which had alleged a fact that is more probable than the other party. therefore comes out the principle of balance of probabilities. So, what is the difference between beyond reasonable doubt and balance of probability? It's basically if there is two parties, we can consider it one as a left side and one is as the right side. So if for the civil proceeding, which is the balance of probabilities, if one side is have the higher weightage than the other side, means that the percentage, we consider this as percentage. So if one parties have proved a higher percentage of elements that successfully been proven, then we can consider it as a winning party. So, but in the criminal proceeding, we can look into the case of Mohammed Rahi bin Yaqub versus PP. It stated that beyond reasonable doubt means that at least 85% of elements been proven. So it means that in the criminal proceeding, there is a higher threshold, higher standard of proof compared to the balance of probability in civil proceeding. It means that if you want to say that in the criminal proceeding, the party is a winning party, it must at least prove 85% of elements. But in civil proceeding, it is more easier to compare with the criminal proceeding, as one party, if it's more probable than the other party, then it considered as a winning party. So we can continue to the case of Mohammed Rahi. It stated that in the criminal proceeding, no beyond reasonable doubt means that the defense counsel, defense part, is able to weaken the prosecution case by casting doubt. So it's basically the defense counsel is trying their best to cast as much as possible the doubt to destroy the prosecution that has established the case just now. So the defense in criminal part, they have a concept on balance of probability, which is same as a civil. Whereas for the prosecution in criminal, it is beyond reasonable doubt. So in defense in criminal, it is more easier compared to the prosecution side for the quantum of proof. So basically, this is the criminal proceeding. And for the civil proceeding, as just now what I have stated, it is balance of probabilities. But there is some cases that require higher standard of proof. For example, fraud, immoral purpose, or matrimonial purpose, or matrimonial cases. This is because it is all the case of morally reprehensible and criminal conduct in civil, or cruelty and adultery in matrimonial proceeding. So we can look into the case of Lee Kim Luang versus Lee Xia Yi, and it stated that in those cases, the standard of proof is intermediate between both civil and criminal. So the standard of proof is higher than the ordinary civil standard. So it means that in these examples of the civil cases, the standard of proof is much more higher than the normal civil proceeding. So this is basically the quantum of proof of the civil and the criminal proceeding. Okay, so I will now apply the general principle that I have discussed just now to the questions. So basically, in this question, there are three scenarios, as I separate it as 1, 2, and 3. So for the first one, PP versus Sarah and Cameron. In this situation, there is a situation regarding the gambling and prostitution. So first of all, this is a criminal proceeding. So there is public prosecutor and defense counsel. So the public prosecutor need to establish the case. And there is two facting issue in this scenario, which is first whether Sarah and Cameron are tenants. And the second, whether Sarah and Cameron has knowledge on the gambling and prostitution. So once the public prosecutor has established the case, and then the defense counsel has the evidential burden to rebut the element that has been proved by the public prosecutor. And after the defense counsel has successfully rebutted, and the evidential burden shift to the plaintiff, to the public prosecutor to rebut back. So the evidential burden shift around. So in this case, this is the criminal case. So the quantum of proof is on the principle of beyond reasonable doubt, which is 85% of elements proof. So that the court, in determining which party will be the winning side, the court will using the principle of BRD, which is beyond reasonable doubt. So moving to the second scenario, which is public prosecutor versus Chroma and Jamas. This is also a criminal case where the murder case is happening. So the public prosecutor has to raise the four facting issues in this scenario, where first one is whether the deceased has died, and the second, whether the deceased died due to injuries, and third one, Chroma and Jamas, whether they are Chroma and Jamas who caused death. And the last one is whether Chroma and Jamas caused death with intention. So the public prosecutor has the role to raise up the case. And in this case, in this situation, the accused, which is Chroma and Jamas, raise up their defense on general exception, which is intoxication, which is stated in the Penal Code. And according to Section 105 Evidence Act that I have discussed just now, the accused has the legal burden to prove the general exception used by him in his defense. So the defense that brings up by Chroma and Jamas is intoxication, and legal burdens is on him, on the accused. So this is basically the second case. And for the last one is John's wife versus John. And this is a matrimonial proceeding, which is also a civil proceeding. Therefore, the principle of balance of probability is using in this case. So the fighting issue in this case is whether John involved in the scandal of prostitution. So the plaintiff, which is the John's wife, has to prove this case, prove this issue to establish this matrimonial civil proceeding. However, this is a matrimonial case involve adultery. So they have a higher degree of quantum of proof compared with the ordinary civil proceeding. Therefore, the quantum of proof in this case is much more higher than the standard of proof compared to the ordinary civil proceeding. So this is basically the 1, 2, and 3 case on running about the burden of proof and the quantum of proof. So I wish everybody understand what I have present, and if there is questions by any of you, can comment below and asking me question. So I hope everyone have a good health and take care everyone. Thank you.